Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Diane's been working with buyers and sellers in the Missoula market for over 25 years. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO. Thank you so much for joining us here on Missoula Real Estate Today. We hope everybody's having a great Thanksgiving weekend. The great Brint Wahlberg, part of the Wahlberg team at Windermere Real Estate, our numbers guy, has joined us for your, I don't know if you're quarterly, I don't know if you're yearly, I don't know if you're somewhere in between. I think if your schedule fits in, we find a place for you, right?
It feels like somewhere in between. Yeah, most definitely. It's just, when available and when needed, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you're always needed, and we're sure glad you're here. But and I think since you've been here, there has been interest rate activity.
Yeah.
Shall we call it? So the complexion of the housing market is changing some, but you've got some really interesting, fairly fresh Q3 numbers for not only Missoula, but Western Montana, and rentals and everything else. So I guess I'll just let you go, and if there's something pops in my head, I'll raise my hand. How's that? I think that's how you and I usually do it anyway.
It feels like it, right? Yeah, well, obviously Diane has me on the show a bunch, and as the numbers guy, come in here and share some perspective statistically what's going on in Missoula and Western Montana's market.
Right.
I chair the housing report for the Missoula Organization of Realtors, and a couple weeks ago we did a press release with our third quarter numbers that can be found on the MissoulaRealEstate.com website under the Five Valleys Housing Report. And so we thought it would be pretty interesting to kind of share what's going on in the market because, Denny, you make a great point. This market has tremendously changed this year, which was first led by interest rates. Because at this point last year, you could get a mortgage, you could get a 30-year mortgage for like 3.75%, and now it's 6.75%. So a 3% interest rate increase changes the market dynamically. I mean, it reduces how much you can borrow. It then suddenly makes it tougher for buyers to pay max dollar, get into bidding competitions, things like that, because they're going to hit that ceiling a lot faster. So then the ripple effect is that it's forced sellers to slow down with the price gains. Because what I've talked about the last couple times we've come on here is median prices are up 25%. They're up 28%. It's massive chunk gains. So what we wanted to see was what's going on in Missoula, especially really the shift kind of hit, I think the first big Fed hike that then really ran through and hit mortgage rates was kind of that April hike that I think they did, where all of a sudden interest rates, leave 3 and go to 4, and then they're hitting to 5, and then when it was June, all of a sudden we're kind of in that upper 5s, low 6s, and then we've been kind of floating around between 6 and 7. So what'd that do to the market? Has it caused home values to go down? Are people stop buying? What's happening? So it was kind of fascinating when we started pulling numbers. The median sales price in Missoula at the end of the third quarter is $525,000. The fascinating thing is I think at the end of the first quarter, I think it was close to like $540,000. And we see this a bunch because you fluctuate a bit. And, of course, the median is your center number of all sales over the course of a year. So looking at just 3 months of data isn't your full sample size. But the fascinating thing is when you look at a lot of major metro markets and other areas, apparently statistically a little bit, even Bozeman, through the summer into the fall, the median sales price has continually gone a little bit down. It's notched down a little bit. Not the case in Missoula. So our second quarter median was $525,000. Our third quarter median was $525,000. When I checked the numbers before I come on the show today, it's $525,000.
We're on lock.
So what has happened in Missoula so far is it's flattened out, but it hasn't dropped per se.
Yeah. Is that still because of the whole supply demand? There's still a real high demand. Or shall I say maybe a little bit higher demand than some of the other markets in the area, just because you're not seeing any kind of fluctuation in that price at all.
Yeah, it's been interesting. So demand has stayed pretty constant at certain price points. Demand has diminished at others, But what we've also seen is that our supply listed inventory is still below what even is considered a normal market. So you still hit a lot of situations, and the general range is 300 to 600, kind of your Missoula sweet spot, if you will. Still needs about double the amount of listings it currently has to meet the current demand.
Gosh.
So what we were seeing was, it's kind of funny because we were like, our supply at the end of the third quarter hit 1.82 months. And anything under 3 months of supply is considered an undersupply, a seller's market. Sellers can get more than they could in a typical market. That's doubled. At this point last year, it was 9/10 of a month. So it's like supply has doubled, but in effect, to especially get to a stabilization point, it needs to double again. And so will that happen? It's a little tough to say, but it seems like it's kind of an interesting thing because the National Association of Realtors has talked a lot about markets that are loaded with available options. Buyers are able to negotiate quite a bit more down, get way off the sales price because sellers find themselves in situations of need to sell. And that's what usually causes prices to come down in kind of a normal market. And in Missoula's case, in a lot of these situations, your options are still pretty limited. So when qualified buyers are ready to buy, you still have to pay, pretty close to full price in situations like this. So it's we're seeing a lot more instances of buyers and buyers agents being able to win on some negotiations, get the list price down, get repairs on inspections, good things like that. But it's still we're still seeing a lot of instances. I've got someone right now, we're sitting here over Thanksgiving weekend, stressing out, waiting to see how we're doing in a multiple offer situation on a place that's right around $400,000. So it's still a competitive market. It's less competitive than it's been, but it's still a strong one.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate here on News Talk KGVO. And my guest, Brint Wahlberg, the Wahlberg team, also with Windermere here in Missoula. It's interesting, Brint, in that, escalating interest rates, that affects potential buyers, but it gets in the backs of minds of potential sellers too. Are we in a situation where just because it's been in the news so much and there's been a fairly steady incline over a fairly short period of time, is the mindset, we ain't done with these increases yet, and so whether we are or not, but in the mind of somebody, it might be a self-fulfilling prophecy. In the mind of a potential buyer, is that no, we're not quite ready yet, and there's no sense in trying to be ready in a month or so because it's going to be a little bit higher. Does that come into play? The whole psychological aspect of it at all?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, of course, the process of either buying or selling a house is usually one of the biggest purchases that most people will make in their entire life, and so it's a process that requires a lot of thought, a lot of timing, and especially in a market like this where you just wonder, did I miss the boat with low interest rates, or am I moving into an advantage because I'm not one of 25 offers in on the only house in my price range right now? So there's goods and bads to each market.
Yeah.
And so, but I think in a lot of these situations, we see people need to, the need to buy or sell a house usually isn't so directly influenced by the current conditions of interest rates or things like that. Right. So sometimes people will wait. Sometimes people will keep an eye on things. The good news is on interest rate projections currently is that they're supposed to start going down a little bit again. They have. So in September, they were over 7, and now they're kind of hovering around 6.5. The National Association of Realtors projects, and a couple, I see like Fannie Mae and a couple other mortgage conglomerates are projecting between 5.5% to 6% for this next year on an average. So better, but not the 3.5% that we've seen the past few years. So, and it's kind of one of these things where in my 23 years in the business, really low interest rates I've seen twice, and it was coming out of COVID, if you will, in the beginning of the pandemic in the last couple of years. And the Great Recession, the housing bubble. And so usually really historically low interest rates are tied to what can tend to be largely negative economic influences. So you have that kind of inverse of rates are low, but maybe employment, from the Great Recession, employment isn't good or things like that. So I think what I would tell both buyers and sellers is basically plan your need out and still continue forward with your goal to either buy or sell as you work with your agent. Don't sit here and don't sit on the fence and wait for too much. Not that I foresee something major happening ahead, but you've got to approach housing like a long-term game the whole time. And so as long as for most all, home ownership is something where it's a long-term equity, and it's something that, and if rates kind of move up and down over the course of a few years, you've got the ability to refinance and get a little bit lower as well too. So I wouldn't say put on a pause or just keep wait on everything. Just make sure you're using a trusted advisor, a good market expert like Diane, like myself, and we're going to be there to help guide you through the way.
I was listening. Brint Wahlberg is my guest, by the way, of the Wahlberg team at Windermere Real Estate and Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck, also of Windermere, here on News Talk KGVO. And this is the traditional starting weekend, of course, of holiday shopping and Black Friday weekend and all of that. Brint and I actually recorded this show on Friday, but I was listening to one of our news magazine promos on Friday, Brint, talking about Black Friday bargains could also possibly include the housing market. And I thought, man, wait till I tell a real estate professional that one and ask if you ever heard of such a thing as that.
I love it. No, I mean, you never know.
Well,
you never know, Danny.
Just get in the holiday spirit, I guess. But I can't imagine that there is any special Black Friday weekend offers on houses in the market.
So here's what I'll tell you, and people could scoff at this this number. So take it in perspective.
Yes,
Someone's
sir.
speaking from a statistical standpoint. At MOR, we've always broken down the market by price segments, and we look at individual segments of the market: 0 to 150, 150 to 3, $150,000 increments. What we've seen is in all segments of the market except one, we're still in a tremendous undersupply. 750 and up, I guess you would call it like the more luxury end of our market.
Sure.
Has almost near 6 months a perfect equilibrium of supply. So if you're looking for your Black Friday deals and you want to hit your best spot where you can probably have the best amount of success with negotiations as a buyer, it's going to be over 750. And like I said, people might be, oh my gosh, over $1 million house. Okay, I'm going to run out on Friday and buy one of those.
Yeah.
But when you look at the sake of the market, and that's been the fascinating thing, what we've seen with some softening on the top end of our market, it has allowed more of these buyers where if you have a $450,000, $500,000 house, you still have a lot of demand. You can probably sell. You can probably sell fast. You can probably sell close to list, if not over. And you can maybe hop up into that next segment of the market with a whole bunch of equity. You've gained 50% equity in the last 2.5 years. You've doubled the equity in your house, and go up into that 750 or higher market. Pull that list price down. Maybe get your interest rate bought down by the seller a little bit. Work in some extra, you name it, repairs, credits, things like that. And so kind of make that move go from a red hot market to a little bit of a normal market. I wouldn't say a cold market, but a normal market where you can make that cross move. Of course, interest rates play a factor into that.
Sure.
But what we're seeing is people, your opportunity to make the hop from one point to a higher point right now is excellent. It hasn't been in, I would say, at least 3 years. So there's your Black Friday deal.
Okay. I'll take it.
Buy $1 million house.
Yes. Act now. There's only one left. Only one left at this price. Yes. And what, you and I have lived here forever, and there's a lot of things I know that we take for granted. But when you're talking, and maybe the answers have not changed from year to year or day to day, I don't know, but what is the continuous draw of this area as a housing market? I mean, what are prospective out of town buyers telling you that it's obviously a very desirable place to live,
of course,
and that does, and that's nothing new in Missoula. That's affected the the prices in the housing market for a long time. But are you getting pretty much the same consistent reasons as to why people are flocking here, or at least trying to flock here?
Sure.
They can find a place to live.
Well, right. We know the joke is Montana's greatest export, or especially the University of Montana's greatest export is, it's graduates who go to other places to work. Yeah. And so we see a mix. I don't think it's really changed too much. Yeah. But we see, remote work for some companies, remote work has become a permanent thing. And so I think a lot of people, especially people who have lived or experienced or know Western Montana, are drawn to return to Montana compared to other areas that they lived in, or maybe that work has required them to live in. That continues. Montana per capita is has the fourth highest amount of retirees in it as well too. And so I don't think, and so what you get is a lot of situations as well of parents in retirement phase of life moving back to Western Montana as well to be near maybe adult children and grandchildren, and also maybe help in those type of situations of helping with grandkids, things like that.
Sure.
We see that I've seen that much more in the last 5 years than I have in my previous years before that. So we see that as well too. We'll get people that, and I don't mean to knock on other parts of the state, but we'll get people that'll look in Billings and they'll come to Bozeman and then they'll stop in Missoula. And there's something about the national forest here and the amount of open space and the public lands and the rivers and the lakes and the tighter canyons and the smaller mountain valleys that definitely have a big draw for people as well too, compared to the more central and eastern side of our state too. So I think the natural beauty of our state, the fact that we hear this so much that, when you get a little dose of Missoula, it kind of stays in you. And so people that want to be here come back here. And so we kind of see those ongoing continual things like that. And obviously you look at what Missoula has to offer as kind of a regional and economic hub of the western side of the state as well too, with world-class hospitals and the university and all these things like that. If people are kind of looking to live within this region, a lot of them start in Missoula, and it's usually a spot that they wind up landing in. Yeah.
In other words, no, Denny, nothing has ever changed.
I don't think so, no. No.
But I like the way you spelled it out, line item by line item there. Very, very true.
Yeah.
No doubt. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. My guest, Brint Wahlberg of the Wahlberg team, also at Windermere. And I should say thank you to some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring you the show every weekend here on News Talk KGVO. They are Miles Link with Opportunity Bank of Montana, Rob Fleming over at Man Mortgage, and Carol Blodgett, MakeItMissoula.com. Back to Brint Wahlberg with the Wahlberg team at Windermere. Wanted to back up to one of the first things you were talking about on the show today, Brint. The 1.5 months supply or 3 months supply and where you want to be for a healthy market. I assume is that when you come up with that number, like maybe just the actual physical number, what is that number? And is that population based, metro area based? What is that number and where does it come from?
We just make it up.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's how I busted. So supply, the way we look at it, we can look at it in any. It's a pretty simple calculation. It is the number of available active homes that you and I could go write an offer on today compared to the number of sales within that same search criteria in the last 30 days. Okay. Basically the metric that says if the last 30 days worth of activity is an indicator moving forward, we need so many houses to meet that demand. All right. And so if you have 10 homes for sale, 5 have sold in the last 30 days. 10 divided by 5 is 2. You have 2 months worth of supply, which means it's going to take 2 months of activity to wash through what you've currently got available. Okay. So what we try to hit, and this is some national metric, the equilibrium number is 6 months of supply. 3 months to 6 months, you're in a normal market. But when you get below 3, what that suggests is that there's not enough listings to meet what's currently the demand is. So what happens? You have to pay higher prices. Mm-hmm. And so that's been the thing that we've been seeing, for quite some time in Missoula, that why our price gains and why our median sales price is so much higher than our median income, why we have affordability challenges within Missoula, things like that. A lot of it can be tied to supply-related issues. And then, of course, since the start of the pandemic, with the amount of rapid escalation in prices, again, if there's only one house and it's priced at $500,000, but you're approved to $650,000, and you don't care, you need that house, you're probably going to pay a lot more than normal. Whereas if you're same situation, but you've got 10 of those houses and you like 8 of them, and you're not head over heels in love with one precisely, you're able to make a little bit more of a calculated decision and probably not have to pay as high, if even at ask or something like that. So it's been the factor in this market that's been going on for years and years and years. Unfortunately, it was happening before the bubble, and it quickly corrected itself, and then it got right back on track about 2013, 2014. We dipped back under normal supply and have been that way since.
And KGVO not only has a pretty large metro area audience, but a lot of outlying area audiences too. And I know before time escapes, we still got about 8 or 9 minutes here, but okay. Let's talk a little bit about Western Montana as a whole, and then maybe if you could just touch upon some of the. Well, boy, we sure can't afford to buy right now. What about rentals?
Yeah.
And that's that is tight too. But starting with Western Montana, probably not. Are you seeing anything really drastically different from Western Montana as a whole than, say, the Missoula proper?
Yeah. So, Denny, our 3 kind of large populated western counties, and I'm thinking far western here, right?
Right.
Missoula, Flathead, and Ravalli. Which one do you think has the highest median sales price?
Well, I know that that Flathead was growing, but I guess I would probably go, in part because of its mystique, I would go with Ravalli County, the Bitterroot Valley.
Yeah, well, no. Flathead actually has the highest median sales price.
I should have gone with my first instinct on it.
Now, Flathead could have that little whitefish influence, which is technically the second highest median sales price, is like a little community area. But the median sales price of Flathead is $600,000 right now.
Gee whiz.
They actually, interestingly, their earlier first quarter median was up to like 660, 670. So that area up there has seen a little bit of a receding of median sales. So they're going to be something that'll be interesting to watch. But you talk about the fastest growing county so far in the Flathead County, almost 2,000 residential sales. Compare that to Missoula, we've only got about 1,350. You go down south of us in Ravalli, 800 sales.
Okay.
Ravalli County median's 550, and so Missoula's 525. So it's kind of funny because I think a lot of people come with this perspective of Missoula is the most expensive. In terms of median sales price, it's actually the opposite in terms of the 3 major populous counties. Now, what I would attribute to is a few things. Flathead, you've got the whitefish factor, and you've got a lot of other kind of influencing things with multiple different communities and prices there. Ravalli, whereas in Missoula, you've got a large metro city center, and Ravalli, you've got Hamilton, you've got Stevensville, and then you've got all the other little towns that dot the highway. But when the predominant offering of a home is something on multiple acres,
yes. Yeah, I figured
it's just going to be more expensive.
Yeah. Land has lots to do with
absolutely,
that.
Absolutely. So that's where I would project, because I think I didn't do this for this today, but I think if you pull it out and say like Hamilton proper, what's the median, Stevensville, maybe Corvallis, maybe Victor. I don't know if we'd have enough data points for that. Corvallis we would, but that'd probably be well under that 550 point most likely. So there are a little bit more affordable options in towns, but those more. It's hard to call it rural when you go up and down, but the more out of town type options definitely raise up that median sales price. Yeah.
What are we seeing in the rental situation?
Rental side's fascinating. I think especially as Missoulians, you drive around town and you notice once again apartment buildings are popping up like flowers in spring. But reason being is that the vacancy rate right now sits at 1%. And so, 99% of all available rentals currently have people living in them paying rent. And so the need for rentals is once again at an all-time high. I think I've said this stat maybe almost every time I've been on here. 52% of Missoula rents, 48 owns. So, it's almost darn near a 50-50.
Yeah.
So for every house that gets built for someone to live in, we need to be adding one rental, be it a house, be it an apartment, be it something like that. So I think a lot of Missoulians, I see this a lot of people are, I can't believe they're building all these apartments, but it's what you have to recognize is that, for every 200 lot subdivision that comes online, you need a 200 unit apartment building to come online as well too. So, rents are up another 8.3%. It was rent prices in Missoula, again, because of low vacancy. Again, it's a supply and demand thing. We're in our report, we're a little staggering, where we saw on average a 2-bed house rents for $1,339 a month, 3-bed $1,723 a month, and a 4-bed over $2,000 a month for rent. So rent prices are pretty high right now. I think as more of these apartment buildings and more rental properties kind of come online in the market, usually that causes a little bit of a quicker wave ripple effect where it could cause some rents to peel back a little bit, but probably nothing tremendously big. So the rental market in Missoula remains high priced, kind of like housing, but also a lot of demand as well too. So great market for investors to consider as well.
And I don't think it has really strayed very much from that 1% figure that you just gave us, right?
No. So again, we're still at heart. We're still a college town, right? So So when May hits and kids go home or something, we see a bump up into the 3 to 4% rate, and then when August hits, it drops right back down to 1% because they're all back. So a bunch of them are back, or new ones are here. So we've been tight on rental supply for quite some time.
All right, Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. My guest, Brint Wahlberg, also of Windermere Real Estate, and the Wahlberg team. In the final couple minutes, I can't let you go, of course, Brint, without some kind of a 2023 forecast here. We're not far away from that. And what do you think?
We're a month away, yeah. So I'm going to follow suit. I think the National Association of Realtors made a pretty fascinating projection of continued volume slowdown. So Missoula's market is down about 20% in terms of sales volume as compared to where it was last year. That doesn't surprise me because last year was about the craziest market we've ever had. National Association is projecting another 5 to 10% volume slowdown. What they do project, though, is that sales prices are going to start to flatten out. In some major areas, especially coastal markets, medians have gone down. But the projection from the National Association is coming for a 1% median gain, median sales price gain. So, in Missoula, it'd be another $5,000. What I look at is we definitely, as someone who's been 23 years in the business, things kind of hit us a little later. So if, on the West Coast, they've had a 5 to 10% decrease in values, that wave is going to probably start. I think it's maybe starting to hit us already. It's been interesting how we've stayed flat, but we're going to move into a situation where might have some slight decreases, but nothing incredibly wild. And the thing I pointed out, I think I said this earlier, we're all up 45 to 55% in home values over the last 2 to 3 years. So those of you that are homeowners that you see news of, we're going to see a little bit of a peel back if we do or if we don't, you're still way ahead to where you were years ago. You've got tremendous equity in your home. And like I said, for people planning to sell and move, there's going to be some pretty awesome opportunities as we move forward through this market. So I think it's going to be a little bit more of what we've seen in the last 6 months. It'll probably carry through to 23. The good news is 24 is projected to actually springboard back and see some strong gains. So this could be a situation where just 23, you got to be smart and calculated. Talk to your real estate expert to make sure they guide you the right way, and you'll be just fine in it.
Jay, we got a bonus forecast there, a quick 2024.
There we go.
I like that. You can take the next 2 years off.
Okay, sweet. I'll see you then.
We'll expect you back in a few months.
Okay.
Great job as always. A great guy to work with. Brint Wahlberg, the numbers guy at Windermere Real Estate on Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate here on KGVO. Great seeing you again, and I do hope you can come back soon.
Okay, we'll see you soon, Denny.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@windermere.com, or for a complete directory of Diane's listings, visit move2missoula.com. That's move, the number 2, Missoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.